I never imagined my quiet, comfortable life would take a dramatic turn because of a single choice, one I made with good intentions, not out of guilt or pressure. My name is Rebecca, and I'm a 39-year-old woman who recently married a wonderful man named Daniel. With him came his 17-year-old son, Jake, from his previous marriage. When I said I do, I knew Jake would be part of our lives. I didn't come into the marriage trying to replace his mother. That was never my goal. I only hoped that over time he might warm up to me and maybe even trust me. But I didn't expect that trying to help him would lead to a tangled web of secrets, resentment, and accusations that nearly tore everything apart. Jake was polite but distant from the start. Our interactions were mostly small talk. How was school? Dinner's ready. Have a good night. He always kept his headphones in, kept his head down, and never really opened up. I didn't push. Teenagers can be complicated, especially ones who've watched their parents divorce and seen them remarry. The problem started subtly, like cracks in a windshield that you don't notice until the whole thing starts to shatter. Daniel was away for work a lot, traveling up and down the East Coast for his company. He'd be gone for days at a time, and during those periods, it was just me and Jake at home. One Thursday evening in late November, it was pouring rain. The house felt unusually silent, and I realized I hadn't seen Jake since he came home from school. Normally, he'd at least come down for dinner, but that night he didn't. I made a plate and knocked on his door, which was slightly ajar. "Jake?" I asked softly. "I made dinner." There was a pause before he replied. "I'm not hungry." Something in his voice didn't sound right. I stepped inside and found him sitting on the edge of his bed, shoulders slumped, hoodie pulled over his head. His room was dark except for the light from his laptop screen, and I could see the faint shimmer of tears in his eyes. I sat down, keeping my distance. "You okay?" He didn't answer at first. I didn't press, just waited. Eventually he let out a sigh and said, "It's just a lot. I don't know how to deal with it anymore." That opened the door. Over the next hour, Jake confided in me, something he had never done before. He told me about his mom's new boyfriend, a man named Rick. Apparently, Rick had moved in a few months ago and had been making Jake's life miserable. He didn't hit him, but he was emotionally intimidating. He called Jake names, made passive-aggressive comments, and once locked him out of the house for coming home 10 minutes late. Jake said his mom never defended him, and worse, she sometimes sided with Rick to avoid confrontation. "I hate being there," Jake said, wiping his eyes. "But I don't want to tell Dad because he'll just make me go back. He always says Mom's doing her best." I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to comfort him, but I also knew I had to be careful. I wasn't his mother, and overstepping could make things worse. "You don't have to go back there," I said gently. "Not until we figure this out." He looked at me with a mix of relief and disbelief. "You mean that?" "I do," I said. "Let me talk to your dad when he gets back. We'll figure out something." Over the next few days, Jake stayed with me. I wrote Daniel a long message explaining that Jake needed a break from his mom's house, but I didn't get into too many details. I didn't want to alarm him while he was on the road. Daniel responded that he trusted me and appreciated me being there for his son. Jake and I started developing a quiet bond. I helped him with school projects, we watched movies together, and he started opening up more. It was the first time I felt like I wasn't just the woman married to his dad, but someone he trusted. Then, about a week later, things started to unravel. Daniel came home early one evening. I could tell he was tired but happy to be back. We had dinner as a family, and everything felt surprisingly normal. But after dinner, Jake pulled his dad aside. They talked in the den for nearly an hour. I stayed upstairs, giving them space, until I heard the door to our bedroom close with a thud. I walked in to find Daniel pacing. "What's going on?" he asked. He looked at me with furrowed brows. "Jake told me about Rick. Everything you said in your message makes more sense now." He nodded. "I didn't want to go into detail without talking to you first." Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, running his hands through his hair. I should have seen it. I always give Emily the benefit of the doubt because I don't want to fight with her. She's his mother, I said gently. But he needs to feel safe, Daniel. I know, he replied, his voice heavy. And I'm grateful you were there for him. But gratitude quickly gave way to tension. Emily found out that Jake hadn't been coming over. Apparently, Jake stopped responding to her texts, and she finally called Daniel in a rage. Why is our son living with your wife like she's his mother? She snapped over the phone. This is not her decision to make. Daniel tried to keep the peace, but Emily wasn't having it. She accused me of poisoning Jake against her, of manipulating the situation. It was absurd, but it didn't stop the accusations. She threatened to take legal action for custody violations. Daniel tried to talk her down, but the damage was done. Jake overheard part of the conversation and became even more withdrawn. He blamed himself for everything. His mom's anger, the arguments, the pressure on his dad. One night, I found him sitting outside in the cold. His hoodie pulled tight. Jake, you can't keep doing this to yourself, I said softly. I should have just kept my mouth shut, he murmured. Now everything's worse. No, I said firmly. What's worse is pretending everything's okay when it's not. You did the right thing. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I scheduled a meeting with the school counselor and encouraged Jake to attend. I told Daniel that Jake needed a neutral adult to talk to, someone who could guide him through this. The counselor, Mrs. Anderson, was compassionate and professional. She listened to Jake and validated his feelings. After a few sessions, she suggested family therapy. Daniel and I agreed, though Emily refused to participate. She claimed it was all a waste of time and accused me of trying to replace her. I never tried to replace her. I only stepped in when no one else would. I helped my stepson privately because he needed someone to see him, to really see him. The weeks that followed were tense. Emily filed for formal custody revisions, and things got messy. But Jake stayed strong. He continued therapy, focused on school, and little by little began to heal. Daniel told me one night, I don't know what we would have done without you. But not everyone saw it that way. Gossip spread among family members. Some said I crossed a line, that I should have stayed out of it. Others whispered that I got involved for attention. It was hurtful, but I stayed focused on Jake. Eventually, the court ordered joint custody to continue but gave Jake the option to choose where he wanted to spend most of his time. He chose to live with us. It wasn't about me. It was about safety, stability, and support. Months passed. Jake turned 18, graduated high school, and was accepted into a local college. On the day of his graduation, he hugged me tightly. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. And that's when I knew.